Stop stealing married women! Jake had suffered from migraines his whole life, and sometimes they became debilitating. His last attack was over a year ago, and he was grateful for every day without a migraine. If you've never had a severe migraine, it can be hard to explain, but I can assure you that prolonged pain and suffering can trigger a death wish. You just want the end of the world to come and let you die in peace. Migraines of this level were rare for Jake, but he knew that when they started, he needed to pay attention to his body and rest, as he had learned in his 35 years. Despite being a large, muscular man, a simple thing like a migraine put him out of commission. It was Wednesday morning when he recognized the signs beginning to appear. Double vision, dizziness, and a slight throbbing in his head. He knew he couldn't risk driving, so he ordered a cab to get home. He told the receptionist to cancel his appointments for today and that he would let her know later whether he would come into the office tomorrow. These headaches could last a week, and he didn't want to take any chances. He came home, took 2 Depakote pills, grabbed an ice pack, and headed straight to the living room, which was next to their large master bedroom. He had a chair in the corner that he used on these rare occasions. You could put an ice pack on your head, close your eyes to keep the light out, and just try to meditate mindlessly. He felt the pain getting worse, put the ice pack on his head, closed his eyes, and tried to relax. Turning off the lights in the living room and pulling the curtains, he sat there for about 2 hours, and it seemed that this migraine wouldn't be as severe as he feared. With any luck, he'd be able to function in a couple hours. He heard some noises from downstairs and assumed it was his wife of 10 years, and decided to just stay sitting there as he wasn't ready to talk. Linda was familiar with his condition and had learned to leave him alone until his seizure passed and always tried to be quiet and leave him to rest when she knew he was home. Linda obviously didn't know Jake was home, as his car wasn't in the driveway, and of course he had no reason to be home since he comes home every night at 6. Jake was able to block out the noise and just float in his meditation and control the pain. But suddenly he realized that Linda wasn't alone. He heard another voice, and it was a man's voice. He opened his eyes and realized that his wife was going upstairs to their bedroom, and there was someone with her. He remained still and silent and listened intently to their conversation. She was talking on her cell phone, and they were both giggling. Jake thought it was strange and thought he was dreaming until he realized she was talking to Shelley, his brother's wife. He was instantly brought back to reality when he heard what she was saying. "Oh, Shelley, I'm with him now. Thanks for setting up this date. And I hope you're right about the size of his dignity. I just hope I'm not in as much pain as you were last week. He said he will call you tomorrow to set up another date. I'll give you a full report later. I have to go. Thanks again." The pain in Jake's heart was suddenly worse than a migraine. He didn't know what he was going to do, and he realized they had no idea he was there, or why they would. The living room was on the side of the bedroom, and the chair he was sitting in was out of sight. He had a front row seat, completely hidden from the performers. As he sat there, his blood boiled, which didn't lessen his headache. He felt nauseous from the migraine and the events taking place. His heart was breaking and tears came to his eyes as he realized that the woman he loved and cherished had just ended their marriage. Completely speechless, he sat there listening to his pants drop to the floor and this guy announce how beautiful his wife's breasts were. Jake was falling into a black hole from which there was no way out. He heard them lay on the bed and then listened as his wife told this guy, Blake, how big his dignity was, and how she wasn't used to handling something so big. Restraining himself with all his willpower, he waited for the right moment to enter their world. And he didn't have to wait long. After giving him a few minutes to enjoy each other, he realized it was time to say hello. Holding back his pain and anger, he stood up and mustered the strength to face the two lovers in the marital bed. He walked very slowly and quietly so that he could see Linda's feet behind his ears. He didn't really need to be quiet, because the lovers were making a real ruckus, enjoying each other's bodies. Linda was looking into Blake's eyes, begging him to make love harder. When out of the corner of her eye, she noticed Jake standing right next to her while she was betraying him in their bed. "Honey, what are you doing here? I can explain," she yelled, trying to pull Blake off of her. Blake didn't listen to her protests and piled his full weight on top of Linda and continued making love while she looked pleadingly into Jake's eyes, screaming at Blake to get off her. It was too late. The pain in her head and heart was too much. Jake walked over to his bedside table, pulled out a loaded Glock G45 and put a bullet directly into Blake's left temple. He immediately collapsed on top of Linda, who lay in shock with Blake's bleeding body lying on top of her. With tears in his eyes, Jake looked at Linda and said, "I loved you with all my heart, and you took everything I loved away from me. My heart is broken." He put the next bullet in her head and watched the life force leave her body. The two lifeless lovers now lay together on the blood-stained sheets. Jake picked up his cell phone and called his brother Robbie. He spoke in an eerily calm voice for someone who had just committed a double murder. Robbie answered and said, "Hey bro, what's up?" "Robbie, listen up. I just caught Linda in bed with this guy Blake, who I think was the new tennis instructor. I heard her talking to Shelly before I caught them making love in my bed. From what I heard, I think Shelly was involved with him too. You might want to keep an eye on her. Robbie, stop talking and listen to me. I just killed them both in our bed. I'm not kidding. I don't want you to suffer what I just went through, so find out if she's cheating on you. Between these migraines and this betrayal, I can't take it anymore, and I want you to know that I love you and I'm sorry. Goodbye, Robbie." And the phone went silent. Before putting the next bullet in his head, Jake called 911 to report a double homicide and suicide and made sure they had the right address. They found Jake in a migraine chair holding a gun, leaning his head against a nearby wall. It was a bloody scene when Robbie arrived 20 minutes later. A year later, I'm Robbie, and Jake was my older brother, and it happened a year ago. It was the worst day of my life, and it changed my world a lot. Losing my older brother to his cheating wife was hard on everyone, especially me. He was my best friend, and I loved him dearly. When everyone found out that Linda had an affair in their own home and caused the murders and suicides, she became a hated figure in this close-knit community. I was still working through my anger and depression over my brother's death. I never told Shelly about what Jake had said and decided to keep a very close eye on my wife. I became paranoid after hearing what Jake had said shortly before his suicide and hired a high-end security company to install all types of monitoring devices and software. It took 2 weeks for everything to be ready, and the monitoring began. If Shelly was involved in Linda's infidelity, I wanted to find out the depth of her own infidelity and act accordingly. My pain never abated, and I became obsessed with finding out how my wife was involved. Sex between Shelly and me became rare and cold after Jake's suicide and the revelation that Shelly was involved in Linda's infidelity. When I received confirmation that Shelly was cheating on me, I became angry and relentless and wanted nothing more than to get revenge on Shelly for both her betrayal and her involvement in Jake's suicide. For a year, the security firm provided me with hours of video and audio recordings of Shelly and her lover. Watching her make love to another man was painful, but after my love for her died, it was some of the conversations between Shelly and her lover that hurt me the most. Some of them kept repeating in my head. "Why are you staying with him? I mean, you said sex with him is boring and you don't do half the things with him that you do with me? I don't understand that. Why not just dump him and move in with me? You said he doesn't make love to you." Do you think he knows about us? No, he's still grieving over his brother's death. He's depressed, and I'm not pushing him. I don't need to have sex with him as long as I have you, baby. Look, I love him, and I'm never going to leave him. I've been telling you since we started this 2 years ago, it's just sex. I don't love you, but I love being with you, and just like I love Blake. You guys were the best thing that ever happened in my life. I really miss him, and I can't believe he's gone. Yeah, I miss him too. I can't believe your crazy brother-in-law shot him. I hope your husband isn't as crazy as his brother was. I don't want the same thing to happen to us. Don't worry, love. I would never bring you into our home like she did. We're fine, and we'll never get caught. I won't let that happen. It would devastate poor Robbie, and I would never want to hurt him. That's why I would never leave him. You'll just have to be satisfied with me. I can live with that. After Robbie discovered her debauchery, he formulated his plan. Shelley made love to assistant tennis coach Jared Roberts, who had been promoted to head coach after Blake's untimely death. A few weeks later, Robbie had an expected opportunity. Jared had been invited to the Country Club Awards banquet for the best tennis program in the area. He called Shelley and told her about the banquet, and she was thrilled to be able to stay at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel and spend the night with him. Conveniently, Robbie told Shelley that he had a 2-week trip ahead of him, which wasn't unusual. The dates coincidentally coincided with the same time as the banquet. Robbie wanted to make sure Shelley had enough rope to hang herself. Indeed, the next day she called Jared and gave him the good news. She had convinced Jared to take a longer trip, stay 3 nights at a hotel in Orlando, and she would turn his world upside down. Of course, getting an upper-class woman for a full 3 days seemed tempting to Jared, and he agreed. Over the next week, they talked about it on the phone and in their texts. It was Shelley's idea to turn this getaway into a pretend honeymoon by telling Jared that she wanted to be his new bride and wife for those 3 days. To fulfill her plan, she even offered to buy a new engagement ring for the occasion and book a honeymoon suite at a hotel to make things more realistic. They'll tell people there that they're newlyweds to get attention and thrills. She even told Jared that she wished it was real and that he was really her husband. Reading all those texts had enraged Robbie and stoked the embers of his revenge. He was going to enjoy watching her face as she watched everything she loved die. Shelley spent all her time working out at the gym. She even waxed herself the week before Robbie left. Robbie wasn't impressed and wanted nothing to do with his cheating, soon-to-be ex-wife. She was going to spend 3 days with Jared as his wife on a pretend honeymoon. It would be her first extended time alone with another man since she'd gotten married 10 years ago. She and Jared thought it would be romantic. She bought some sexy outfits, bikinis, and lingerie for their date and planned everything out. Robbie was amazed and envious of the effort she was putting into this guy. The love he once had for her was now gone. Feeling this level of betrayal robbed him of the last drop of love he had left. It was over, and it was time for Shelley to feel the pain. On the way to the hotel, Robbie called Shelley but only got her voicemail. He left her a message telling her that he loved her and would see her in 10 days. Shelley called him back an hour later, wanting to make sure he didn't suspect anything. She had to finish business with Jared for the 3rd time that day before she called Robbie. She told him that she loved him and that the kids were at their friend's house. She told Robbie that she would order pizza when the kids got home and that they would watch movies all night and how much she missed him. She said goodbye and told him that she loved him more than anything in the world and that she couldn't wait for him to come home. Robbie wanted to throw up, and he just couldn't believe that she had lied to him so easily. He drove to the hotel and handed his car to the valet. Robbie asked the porter if Mr. and Mrs. Roberts had checked in earlier. His anger increased when the porter confirmed that newlyweds Mr. and Mrs. Roberts had checked into their honeymoon suite yesterday. He had contacted the hotel restaurants to see if they had reservations for that evening. Sure enough, the main restaurant confirmed their reservation for 6 o'clock that evening for Mr. and Mrs. Roberts. Strategically choosing the best viewing spot, Robbie carefully followed the couple the entire dinner, remaining unnoticed. By the time they both exited, he had already taken up a position at the entrance. The plan was to look like he was entering the restaurant at the same time they were leaving. He saw the newlyweds holding hands after they had paid their bill and were about to leave. Everything was perfectly timed. He got into position just the second they were leaving. He purposely turned the corner so he could run into them at that exact moment. Robbie ran into Shelley's beau and nearly knocked him down, and everyone turned to look. They both staggered slightly and regained their balance. With a smile, Robbie took a step back and spoke to him. "Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." Then he noticed Shelley and stood there with his mouth open for a long time, feigning shock and surprise. She stopped there in her sexy dress, wanting to run away and hide. Her worst fear came. She froze with her eyes wide open in utter shock. "Gotcha." "Shelley, is that you? What are you doing here?" Robbie said with a studied expression on his face. Jared didn't realize for a few minutes who he was or what was going on. Then Robbie took a step back and looked at his wife as if he was shocked by her outfit. He couldn't believe how she looked. She was wearing a very short dress with a deep neckline and no bra, nylon stockings, CFM sneaker shoes, and glamorous makeup and hair. God, I wish she would dress like that for me, he thought to himself. "Wow, that's some special attire, Shelley. I've never seen you look so attractive. And who's that?" "I'm confused, Shelley." Shelley realized she was caught and tried to think of something to say, but just stood there with her mouth open. She tried to pull herself together and said, "Robbie, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be in Jacksonville." "Well, there was a change of plans. You know how it is in my job. But what the hell is going on here? Are you dressed like a cheater in a sexy dress with some guy? Let's go out into the lobby and talk," Robbie almost shouted, grabbing her arm. Once in the lobby, Robbie spoke again. "When we talked earlier, you said you were going to stay home with the kids. What are you doing here and who do you have a date with?" "Robbie, it's not what you think." "It's not what I think. It's not what I think," he repeated twice in an amazed voice, looked at her hand and then into her eyes. "Where are your wedding rings? Have you been cheating on me?" She looked at her ring finger where the big diamond ring had disappeared and been replaced by the thin gold ring her lover had given her for their pretend honeymoon weekend. She wanted to run and hide, but there was nowhere to go. "Robbie, I love you. It doesn't mean anything." "What doesn't mean anything? You're not wearing your wedding ring? Why are you wearing another gold wedding ring? Look at the way you're dressed. You've never dressed like this for me before. You left town with some guy. You're not wearing a wedding ring. You're wearing some new gold ring. You're leaving me for him. Is that what this is about? You say it's not what I think it is, but there seems to be something going on here." He kept up the pressure and savored every second of her confusion. Robbie turned to the tennis player and asked in a strong voice, "Why don't you tell me what's going on?" Shelley looked at Jared in awe, not knowing what he would say. "Dude, relax. Just like your wife said, nothing is going on. There's an awards banquet here at the hotel, and she was kind enough to escort me here to support your country club. She was just doing me a favor. It's all good, man." Now smiling broadly, Robbie tried not to laugh at the jerk. "Oh, I see. So she's on her best behavior, and she's just here as your date for the ceremony. Let me ask you a question. Do you guys share a room here at the hotel? And don't lie, because I'm going to want to check out both rooms before I leave." They both stared at the floor without saying a word. Shelley spoke first. "Honey, I love you. Please don't be upset. It was only supposed to be a few days here, and no one would have known about it. So here you are with him for a few days, sharing a room, having sex, not wearing my wedding rings, just a new gold ring. Oh my God, you're here pretending to be his wife? Are you on your honeymoon?" Already knowing the answer and feigning shock, Robbie persisted. "Honey, it's not what you think," she said, trying to convince him that her infidelity could be explained. With feigned growing anger, Robbie thundered, "Answer the question! I'm going to go to the front desk and get the answers, so you better start talking. Do you guys share a room? Answer me!" "Yes." Her tears were flowing. "Are you having sex? And remember, I'm not an idiot." "Yes," Shelley replied, sobbing. "Here's the real question. Are you pretending to be his wife?" Sobbing. "It's not what you think, baby." "Answer the damn question. Did you check into this hotel as Mr. and Mrs. Rogers?" In a confused and tear-filled voice, she said, "Yes. Okay, I get it. I'll leave you and your new husband alone. I'm going home and will contact my lawyer in the morning. We're done, Shelley. You gave up my love, our marriage, and our life together, all to have fun with that tennis player. No, no, baby, please, I love you and you don't understand. I don't want a divorce. You're my husband and I can't lose you. Please try to understand. I don't love him. It's just what I needed. Please understand." "No, I can't understand." "Okay, I'll give you one more chance to explain it to me so I can understand. Tell me why I have to put up with my wife sleeping with another man and pretending to be his wife." Again, she pleaded, "Please try to understand. It was only supposed to last a few days and I needed it. It's just sex. I don't love him. I only love you." "That's it? I'm supposed to be okay with you sleeping with another man for a few days so you can have some fun?" Shelley was hysterical now, sobbing between her palms. She realized what she had done, and she had no valid excuse. All she could do was beg him to understand her need to have sex with someone else. "Robbie, I'm so sorry. I was stupid. I wasn't thinking. I love you. This is all about sex. I know that sounds bad, but we can get through this. I just want to be with you. Please forgive me." Silence. The tennis guy started to get annoyed and lose patience and spoke up. "Hey man, back up a little bit. Can't you see how upset she is?" Robbie turned to Jared and gave him a death stare. "Shut up, asshole, and get out of my sight. Leave me and my real wife alone. You've already ruined our marriage. Isn't that enough for today?" Jared stood up, put his hand on Shelley's shoulder, and said, "I'll be in our room, baby. Come upstairs when you're done." She pushed his hand away violently, wanting nothing to do with him at that moment. Robbie laughed at this. Suddenly, she no longer wanted to be together with her lover, and he was enjoying everything that was happening. Robbie continued to taunt Shelley as she sat there sobbing. "Honey, don't be so mean to your new husband. I'm probably ruining your honeymoon, aren't I? We both know you want this and that you don't want to be with me anymore. We both know that you don't love me, or you wouldn't have cheated and been so disrespectful to me." Jared left and they were alone. "Stay with me, please," she said with pleading eyes. "Just for a few minutes. Tell me, how long have you been with him?" She lied again and said it was the first time they had been together. He was amazed at how easily she could lie to him. "Shelley, have you ever disrespected me in your conversations with him? You know, saying bad things about me or berating me when you were together or during sex?" Again with the lies. "No, baby, I would never do that. I love you so much. You mean everything to me. You have to believe me. Let's just go. Right now, let's go home and be together." Robbie pulled out his phone and turned off the audio recording. He then ran a playlist of their dialogue received over the last 6 months. "First, I know you've been cheating on me for the last 2 years. Second, can you please explain that to me?" The audio was loud and clear. Audio file 1. "Don't worry about him, he has no idea." Audio file 2. "I hate having sex with him, he's so boring in bed." Audio file 3. "I won't leave him, I love him, but not for sex." Audio file 4. "I stay with him because he is a good provider and father. I will never let him go." Audio file 5. "Baby, you're 10 times better in bed than my loser husband." Audio file 6. "I love the way you turn me on." There were over 50 audio files, each one mocking her husband and degrading their marriage. "Your contempt for me was beyond anything I could have ever imagined. Your comments were much more than just game. They were hurtful and disrespectful. Unfortunately, your words will haunt me forever." She has never looked so apathetic, shocked, sad, and basically destroyed, and it was nice to see her realize that she had destroyed a marriage and nothing would ever be the same for her again. "Shelley, this is why it's over between us. I can't take your lies anymore. I know you've been cheating and making love to other men for at least the last 2 years. What you don't know is that Jake called me the night he shot his wife and your ex-lover. He heard you on the phone with Linda and how you liked Blake's big dignity. I knew about your infidelity, how you lied to me, disrespected me. I wanted to see how far you would go, and you never slowed down. You made it clear by your actions and comments that I was just a good provider and father to your children. You can stop this farce and your lies because I have audio of all your calls and messages. I know how you feel about me and our sex and what a bad lover I am. You see, I know all of this, and soon everyone will know if you don't do what I'm talking about. You set up my brother's wife, helped her become a cheater like you, and you bear some responsibility for that tragic day. You encouraged her to be with Blake. You even arranged a date. And because of your actions and deceit, both she and my brother are dead. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me, she said, wrapping her arms around her head and sobbing uncontrollably. I'm sure you were wondering why I was here tonight. It wasn't an accident. I knew about your plans for this week. What you had planned was so incredible that I just had to see it for myself. I even knew about your plans to play the role of husband and wife on this trip and cut me out of your life. I have to admit that was painful to hear, and it hurt me more than you can imagine. Shelley wouldn't stop crying. You broke your vows. You ruined our marriage. You disrespected our children. Even worse, you were involved in the affair and death of my sister-in-law and brother. There is no turning back from this. I don't want you coming home at the end of your honeymoon weekend. I think you should stay at your mother's house. You better tell them what you did, because if they call me and ask me why we broke up, I'll tell them the truth and share everything I know. Robbie waited a long time before continuing, letting everything he said settle in his mind. I will be reasonable, but you will sign the divorce papers without contesting the agreement. If you fight me, I will show every video and audio I have to everyone, including your parents. The kids are old enough to decide who they want to live with, and after we explain your infidelity, lies, and deceit, I'm sure they will live with me. Shelley, what is really sad about all of this is that I loved you with all my heart and wanted to spend the rest of my life with you. When Jake told me about you, I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. But I found out the horrible truth and my heart was broken. You have to live with that guilt and loss of love forever. We'll never be together again. Robbie got up, left Shelley sobbing, and drove home. I never got over the death of my brother. Revenge on my wife brought no peace. 5 years later, I met a woman at a coffee shop and we became close friends. I never remarried because I could never trust another woman the way I used to. We dated for several years and remained friends. Shelley had a nervous breakdown and was hospitalized for a year after the divorce was finalized. She was never invited back to town, where she learned of her involvement in Jake and Linda's deaths and that she had betrayed her family. She lost custody of her children and only saw them every other weekend. She spent several years in a deep depression because of what she had done. As long as she continued to take her medication, she was able to live off the divorce settlement and her job as a secretary in a real estate office in another city. The children grew up without any problems because I kept them safe and protected. The people around us rallied around me and the children, which allowed us to lead normal lives. Shelley never recovered from the loss of her love, her children, and the wonderful life she once had. She went to bed every night thinking about how many lives she had ruined and how her life had been ruined by selfishness. Shelley became active in church and eventually dedicated her life to the church, hoping to find forgiveness. Oh yes, Mr. Tennis Pro was attacked one night after leaving another married mistress. He had 2 Achilles tendons severed after being tasered. At that point, his tennis career was over. When the police asked him what happened and what he remembered, he remained silent and said nothing. However, he remembered the voice and got the message loud and clear. He could not identify the voice, but decided not to share the message with the police. He would never forget what was said to him. Stop taking married women away. The end.